Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning to the people of Guam. Half a day, the Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriations now called to order. Today is Monday, June 19, and the time now is 9:04. In compliance with the open government law, the notice for this public hearing were posted on the Gov Guam Public Notice Portal, KGTF, PBS, Channel 12, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Monday, June 12th, and then with a change on the same date and again on Thursday, June 15th. The agenda today is the budget hearing on the Guam Fire Department. Bill 26-37 COR, the Committee on Rules, by request of I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Governor of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous administrative provisions. At this time, I ask the members of the Guam Fire Department panel to rise and be placed under oath by the Sergeant Arm.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Yes. Thank you. Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant Arms. I'd like to recognize the panel that are present. We have the Acting Chief, Joey Manabusid. We have also Chief Amkanko. I'm going to call you all chief. I'm going to assume that, right? You're one way or the other, you're all chiefs. And soon to be the fire chief, hopefully. We have Mr. Tetauta and Mr. Berner, right? Okay. The conduct of this budget hearing shall be as follows. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopy and distribution. And I believe you guys have already taken care of that. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony that may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individuals testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and quorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and quorum will be restricted from participating and will be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. So I'm going to ask each one of you, Chief, before you speak, state your name and then let it loose. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joined this morning with my colleague, Senator Tom Fisher. Thank you, sir. I will now ask the acting chief to provide his testimony for his budget. And if you have a presentation, feel free to present it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Buenas and half a day, Senator San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Guam Fire Department's fiscal year 2024 proposed budget. Before presenting to you GFD's fiscal year 2024 request, I would like to provide you the setting of our testimony through an overview of our direction, challenges, highlights, and accomplishments that should bring you an understanding of the professional services that the Guam Fire Department, its administrative and support staff, and our emergency medical dispatchers provide to our island community. My guidance continues to remain that we meet our mission mandates, ensure that our staff are led, trained, and equipped, and paid, as well as increasing our efficiency and capabilities while decreasing expenditures. Finally, to seek revenue enhancement through cost recovery and eligible grants. The mission, quote, the mission of the Guam Fire Department is to mitigate threats of life, property, and the environment through education, prevention, and effective response to fire, medical, and environmental emergencies. The Guam Fire Department is mandated to provide the overall fire protection, fire prevention, fire suppression, and extinguishment and protection of life and property connected therewith, requiring a comprehensive administration of an emergency medical services program to include a wildland firefighting capability for the territory of Guam. The Guam Fire Department provides for and administers an extensive program of fire prevention inspections, public fire safety education and training, international fire code enforcement, fire investigations, and review of plans for new and existing building construction. Additionally, GFD operates and manages the enhanced emergency 911 communication systems and a wild, land, and open water search and rescue program. With the Homeland Security and War on Terrorism initiatives, the Guam Fire Department continues to provide a comprehensive hazardous materials response team, an advanced life support program, as well as rapid intervention team. We accomplish our mission by promoting safety and maintaining a well-equipped, highly trained, and motivated force of professional firefighters, EMT, rescue personnel, emergency medical dispatchers, and promoting fire prevention and other public safety education programs. Our goals and objectives: maintain timely, effective, and quality medical responses to all calls for assistance to the island community, which will be accomplished by maintaining the mandate requiring all firefighters to be emergency medical technicians. Continue the development of our training programs so that all firefighters acquire National Registered Emergency Medical Technician and Fire Pro Board certification as fire service professionals to any type of emergencies. We are also in development of a comprehensive professional development training curriculum that will provide the most current and updated leadership and management fire service training to be attended by our fire officers and chief officers. Finalization and implementation of GFD's paramedic program. Growing the current emergency medical dispatcher, APCO, certification requirements by adding the emergency medical responder certification for our E911 personnel. Continue our public safety education and life safety programs aimed at the youth within our communities that brings awareness and education that could potentially assist our youth in recognizing the need to call for medical or fire services. Grow the self-inspection program for qualified small businesses in the community to meet the demands of fire code inspections. Continue our smoke detector, public safety education, and life safety programs, and implement a confidence testing program for fire protection systems. Host continued discussions with our first response partners to hold a multi-agency response exercise with both local and federal partners to enhance relationships, as well as enhancing our overall ability to respond to any crisis. Continue to train and equip our emergency hazardous materials response team and work closely with the Guam EPA and Office of Homeland Security to equip against any type of hazardous situation which may present or pose a threat to the island and its community. Continue the procurement and purchase of much-needed emergency response vehicles and equipment to replace our aging fleet. Acquire a maintenance facility for the GFD Fleet Maintenance and Repair Section. Increase public safety community outreach programs in an effort to educate our communities regarding fire safety while fostering stronger community relations in our villages and business communities. Continue to pursue financial avenues or partnerships to build a GFD headquarters, GFD training facility, and a next-gen 911 center. These goals and objectives continue to experience ongoing challenges such as retirements, extended military deployments, and medical profiles. Despite these challenges, we remain a department that is task purpose-driven and mission-focused. However, these absences within our department will continue to challenge our ability to meet NFPA and OSHA standards, specifically the 2-in, 2-out rule, which determines our minimum manning standard. In line with the Governor and Lieutenant Governor's commitment to our island safety, we continue to work with the administration to address the hiring of additional firefighters. As you are all aware, on September 2022, we graduated 33 fire recruits, a much-needed addition to our ranks. However, despite their addition, since we have had 9 of our personnel retire and we are tracking an additional 8 by the end of this year. As a result, we anticipate overtime expenditures increasing in order to maintain daily minimum requirements. Despite the attrition rate we're experiencing and the challenges it poses, we continue to ensure that we achieve the mission of our department. We have deployed our new next-generation 911, which replaces our antiquated legacy 911 system. This puts the most modern technology and equipment in the hands of our professional emergency medical dispatchers so they can provide an even more effective call and dispatching system to our responders and community. This system also includes a management information system that will monitor all types of suppression, EMS rescue, fire prevention, and investigation responses, and will provide valuable statistics. In coordination with Guam Community College, Department of Labor, and the School of EMS, our first paramedic course was completed by 15 firefighters. Additionally, we have completed promotions of 96 fire personnel to critically needed supervisory ranks, and as previously mentioned, 33 fire recruits have completed fire academy training at the Guam Community College and are now serving the community as firefighters. We continue to equip our responders with the latest in hazmat response equipment, extrication tools, automatic external defibrillators, and self-contained breathing apparatuses. We recently procured 2 structural fire pumpers that are scheduled to arrive by the end of this year. Lastly, our community partnerships and volunteering of GFD members that has resulted in the renovation, repairs, and painting of various fire stations around the island, along with the numerous charity drives, cleaning and painting of school bus stops, and donations of school supplies and equipment. We have started the process of procuring required supplies and equipment that will result in the full implementation of our paramedic initiative. We continue to work with GURA to build the new Sinahanya Fire Station, as well as an ongoing search in coordination with GITA to secure alternate funding via interested business investors to relocate and build a new Tamuning Fire Station. GFD continues to work with the Department of Agriculture, GPD, and GITA to secure grant funding to build an east side boat ramp at Talafofo Bay. This will provide a much-needed access for not just recreational boating, but for emergency response to waters along those shores. GFD has begun planning meetings with GVB on building a rescue station in Tuman. Furthermore, we will be procuring fire water tenders during this fiscal year to replace our aging fleet. GFD continues to work with DOA with the creation of the EMT and fire inspector positions. To demonstrate our efforts towards revenue enhancement, we have conducted analysis on the appropriate fees and fines updates needed to recover the cost of providing services and lessen our dependence on the general fund. In fire prevention, our fees and fines are antiquated and far below the industry standard for communities and economies of our scale. For example, it costs $35 to conduct an inspection for a small storefront, while it costs the same amount to inspect any of our Tuman hotels. In emergency medical services, we charge less than 25% of the allowable reimbursable costs of Medicaid/Medicare. For our fire suppression responses, we are nowhere near the industry standard. Finally, we intend on meeting the Public Utility Commission to seek an increase from current 911 surcharge. To this end, we have a ready recommended fees and fine schedule update and ready to present to this body to create legislation and implement as soon as possible. The Guam Fire Department is an all-hazards response career organization that consists of the following: the Office of the Fire Chief, Administrative and Support Services Bureau, EMS Rescue Operations Bureau, Fire Suppression Bureau, Training Bureau, Fire Prevention Bureau, and the E911 Communications Bureau. Our proposed budget. The Guam Fire Department is requesting the total amount of $38,302,049 for fiscal year 2024, which is the same level authorized for fiscal year 2023 from all funding sources. The table that you see being requested from each funding source, it reflects the amount of increase and decrease when compared to the fiscal year 2023 authorized level. Our general fund. GFD's fiscal year 2024 proposed budget from the general fund reflects an increase of $112,291 on our fiscal 2023 authorized level. Proposed budget from this funding source will adjust personnel services as for office space rental, as well as for office space rental and utilities. Our special funds. The E911 surcharge. GFD's fiscal year 2024 proposed budget from the E911 surcharge fund reflects a decrease of $59,694, or negative 2.75%, when compared to the authorized level for fiscal year 2023. GFD's proposed budget from this funding source includes funding to adequately address personnel services as well as operations and utility requirements to effectively and efficiently operate the 911 center. Flame Fund. GFD's fiscal year 2024 proposed budget from Flame Fund reflects a decrease of $52,597, or negative 4.6% when compared to the authorized level for fiscal year 2023. Funding being requested from this funding source will address the Guam Fire Department's annual requirements for contractual services, supplies and materials, equipment, and capital outlay categories. In conclusion, this concludes our presentation, and we would like to assure you that GFD's proposed fiscal year 2024 budget will provide the adequate funding necessary to sustain our current progress in maintaining and/or improving our level of public service. Guam Fire Department is deeply committed to meeting our island's expectations and to continue providing the professionalism, dedication, and high-quality services that our island communities have come to expect and deserve. We are committed to work with each of you to ensure the needs of our island are addressed within the realm of the fire service and public safety. Thank you again for allowing us this opportunity, and we look forward to your questions and recommendations.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to also recognize a colleague that have joined us, Senator Chris Duenas. Thank you, sir. Chief, gosh, it's almost a status quo in your budget from 23 to 24. It's almost pretty much the same. You're just going to adjust wherever you need to adjust it. What I'm concerned, what actually attracts me more is the procurement of equipment. Are you using still local? You're procuring it locally? Maybe Ed can answer that. Mike can answer that.
Mike test. Michael Nkanko, Assistant Fire Chief. Well, we are procuring those fire trucks and ambulances through federal grants.
Okay.
And those smaller equipments, we use our Flame Fund.
Okay, but when you say federal grant, are you using the federal GSA or local GSA?
Local GSA, sir.
The only reason why I asked that question, I think you'll probably all agree that if you went to the federal, you get a bigger bang for your dollar.
Yes.
Not unless it's changed. And I'm just trying to figure out, because maybe my colleagues will agree, so if you can reduce your costs in the area of you buying one fire truck, well, you have the ability to buy two. And that's what I'm just trying to reach out to, because whenever a truck goes down, you're pretty much trying to make sure you're getting another one up. And if you really have vehicles incoming, because being prior military retired, there's a lifespan for every equipment you have. And Chief Manabusa knows that. After so many years, you've got to dump it. You've got to get a new one. And I don't want you guys to be caught where it's on the newspaper, the fire department doesn't have a fire truck, and you're like, because we're waiting for it? No, you should have had it ordered. It should have been inbound. It should be ready. It's almost like what DPW is supposed to be doing on the buses. I like to see you guys where we're seeing new trucks. Not saying we have a lot of money, but you can't just keep repairing the same old truck that's 30, 40 years old. That's what concerns me. Because when the time comes, I'm going to meet Chief Manabusa out there, or even you, Mike, and we're going to say, we tried. And I'm like, wrong answer, brother. You know what you need to do. Let's get it done. And then on the 911, that's special funds. Maybe we can try to figure out a way where it automatically just goes to you. I mean, because it's always on the budget. But it's money that's already earmarked for 911. And if it can just take care of you, and if you guys are satisfied, just give us the write-up. And I think my colleagues may agree that if it's money that's going to you anyway, why don't we just keep it as a revolving, so that when you need it, you use it. You just have to report to the station that, we received 500,000 or whatever amount. And this is where we're using it for. And you guys have done good PRs out there. So, we don't have, I don't have any reservation from the fire department. And I'm proud. I'm very happy with the performance of the fire department. I'm a victim of a fire at my house. And I have to admit one thing, they're professionals that showed up. Until you become a victim, you don't know what they go through. And the only thing worries me now is in the other areas in the community, the fire hydrants. Who's responsible for fire hydrants maintenance? Could you tell me who's responsible? Because I know for a fact that whoever was the GECO captain, he went out and inspected all the fire hydrants in GECO. I talked to him, he goes, no, I checked it and I marked it so that if we ever do respond, we know what works and what doesn't work. And I'm just concerned, is it a GW or is it the fire department? Because I know you're supposed to test it, but beyond that, Chief, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, Chief Mendoza, the maintenance and upkeep of the fire hydrants is overlapping jurisdictions, the Guam Fire Department and Waterworks. So we ensure it's operational, but then we also report any discrepancies to Guam Waterworks so they can make the required repairs or whatever that's needed.
But when I say, other than just making sure there's water, but who maintains it's kept clean and painted? Because there are some fire hydrants that are just sitting there, and I know they're not working, but it's turning into a zangu around it, and one day somebody's gonna run off the road, and when they hit that, what did the person hit? He hit a Governor of Guam building or a structure. Who's liable? Governor of Guam, because that should be properly marked. And if it's not working no more, then take it down. Free up that line. And that's where I asked the question. And I know you mentioned it's overlapping, but I think maybe you may want to come up with something to write up and get GWA to make sure there's water rolling and that maybe only you guys have the key. And the reason why I said that is because I think it was on the news. There were some tankers that are out there selling water that were tapping into the fire hydrants. And that should never happen. Fire hydrants are for the purpose of suppressing fire, not provide water to sell to the market or to give to the people. And if it needs to be given to the people, I have no problem with that one. But let the fire department be the one to go out there and say, we're going to open it up. We're offloading GWA, so many gallons to go to the people of Guam that don't have water. Okay? But on the 911, if you want, just come up with some write-up. And let's make sure, because, one bad history of 911, no, it was taken away the money one time. And if we maintain as a revolving, the 911 folks can at least be assured that when they say, Chief, this is the next equipment, there's no problem, the money's there. Keep it rolling, keep it up to date. Because when folks need to call for help, for rescue from the fire department, at least they have a number to call 911. The only problem I have with that one is that the police department's not connected with 911, right? I mean, when they call 911, it's the fire. And it's always, can you call this number for the police? There's got to be a mechanism where somebody can actually tap and says, stand by, we're transferring your call to whatever precinct. I mean, it's got to be something simple. Maybe not as simple as I'm thinking, but I believe it can be simple. Technology is here. You want to comment to that, or?
Yes, sir. In regards going back to the 911 funds, yes, we would appreciate language in the budget bill that would authorize us to use all funds within 911. What happens here is after the fiscal year ends, the lapses revert back because we're not authorized to use those lapses. So presently, we are in discussion with your personnel, the OB, we are going to request that we use the unfunded, the unappropriated balance, which is about $2 million. And we would need that to pay our vendor for the new system in itself. So what we need included in that language in the Budget Appropriations Act is to include, to authorize us to use all the funds in itself or lapses that occur within that fiscal year. Because that's why it reverts back to what is called a fund balance.
Right. And that's why I led on to the revolving full access. I'll work with OFB. We'll figure out the impact, because there shouldn't be any financial impact other than it's money for you guys anyway for 911. Keep it going, keep it fixed, so Senator Rangers doesn't call me and say, I forgot some Joe, man. I thought we took care of the... I mean, I look forward to the two gentlemen with me to say, I can't even get all on fire. And then I'll be like, Where's Mike? Where's Joey? I got somebody to point at. Because when I called the man in the back there, in the back seat there at 911, he's going to say, he met me out there and goes, can you help us, 911? I'm here to help. We are all here to help. Because it's about rescue. It's about the safety of our people. And the most expedient way of getting help to them. That's most important. Okay, I'm going to ask Senator Fisher if he has any questions, and then Senator Reyes, and then I'll wrap it up unless you guys have any other comments.
Thank you very much. Good morning, gentlemen. I think you guys do a terrific job, very professional, prompt as you can be in your responses, and so I congratulate the fire department. I have some questions. This one's kind of born out of ignorance, but the 911 fund, where does the money come from? Is that part of a telephone bill or?
A surcharge, which is charged to every customer for cellular service.
Okay, so
yes.
it comes out of the phone bills?
Yes, sir.
Does it also come out of landlines?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But there's a limited in terms of how many landlines on a certain account.
Okay, makes sense. I've got a little bit of a laundry list here. How are you, I appreciate the fact that you are being fiscally responsible, I really do, and that you haven't increased your request for this fiscal year. But I want to make sure, as we all do, that you're adequately funded because you are so integral to the health of our community. And then I saw that you have some future projects that you want to take care of. How are you preparing for those projects? Because you need the money, right, for the east side, the boat ramp, et cetera. So if somebody could address that?
Well, some of these projects are through partnership or through other agencies, or through federal grants in itself. Now, should a project require funding other outside of our appropriations, then we would, of course, request the legislature for such funding.
Okay.
Now, if you look at, let me go to, I'm sorry, sir. Let me go to it. Like the fire station renovations and repairs, that's coming out of our budget. Basically painting, cleaning supplies and stuff. We got a lot of handymen in the fire station, so we basically take care of our repairs. Those that we can't, we refer to Public Works, Department of Public Works, who are responsible for government buildings.
Okay, let's just talk about the Talafofo boat ramp, for example. Are you currently developing a request for proposal or anything like that?
Yes, basically as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, we're working with Gura Gita. Gosh, I'm not really directly involved in that project in itself, sir.
Okay, so you haven't come to the point where you're projecting how much this is going to cost or anything yet?
Basically, that's not coming out of our budget. We're seeking assistance through Gita and the others so that they can provide the funding for us.
Okay, but I'm sorry, sir, but have you, for example, just for the boat ramp, have you got to the stage where you're able to project a cost?
Like I said, I don't have that info with me right now, sir. Okay. There is a person that was responsible for this project. Okay. And he's not here today.
Yes, sir. The purpose of that question is, like I said, I'm happy that you're not requesting for more money, but I want to make sure you've got every dollar you need to accomplish your mission. You have equipped your responders with hazmat response equipment as well as automatic external defibrillators. Does the use of the defibrillators, does that require any training?
Assistant Chief Darren Burger. The use of defibrillators, all firefighters are trained in the use of defibrillators with their EMT training that they received during the academy. Okay. And then we do renewal trainings on all EMT procedures and everything every 2 years for recertification. Okay. So yes, they do require training, and it is provided to them.
Okay, the reason I ask that is it's a little bit off subject, but we will very shortly be considering putting defibrillators in all the public schools, which would be available, I assume, to anybody. How do you feel about that?
We feel it's a good idea to have them available to the public. The type of defibrillators that the public uses is different from the type we use. Okay. Ours is more for emergency response and health professionals. Okay. The type that they're going to be using is very user-friendly. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when they do get installed in the public schools or whatever schools, they will get briefings and training on how to use them as well.
Okay, good. So the fire department supports that? That's very valuable information.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The inspection fees, you mentioned $35 for a storefront and $35 for the Hilton Hotel. Your fees, do you set them pursuant to the AAA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, it's ridiculous that your inspection fee would be $35 for a huge hotel, right? Can you not address that disparity through rules and regulations?
Actually, in the past, we have adjusted our fine schedule to legislative action versus going through the AAA process. Okay. And that was done through Public Works because it's related. Mm-hmm. And we managed to update our fine schedule not too long ago, within the last 10 years. Mm. However, our fees and fine schedule, which is subject to the fee schedule, which is subject to AAA, that hasn't been updated for over a decade.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would, I guess, suggest that you look at setting your fees through the AAA. I wouldn't do it by legislation because it's going to get set in stone and you're not going to be able to move. But I would encourage you to look at that. At one point you said, for our fire suppression responses, we are nowhere near the industry standard. Could you talk more about that?
Our fee schedule, we basically have no fee schedule for fire department response. So a good example, let's say there's an activated fire alarm. And in some cases, it may be a nuisance because they keep activating it, mm-hmm. and our engine companies will respond. We have no fee for that right now. In other jurisdictions, they actually get fined for that, for not fixing their system and having multiple. We don't treat it like, oh, never mind, don't respond. We do respond to make sure that if they need the fire department, and it does take us away from actually responding or decreases response time from real-world emergencies.
I would, thank you for that response. I didn't realize that. I know that Senator Joe agrees. I assume Senator Chris and Joanne do too. If somebody's setting a false fire alarm, you should hammer them because that could cause somebody their life. But, okay, and then Senator Joe's question about the fire hydrants, I assume, you know which ones are dead, which ones do not work?
The fire hydrants?
Yeah.
What we do is we do have a inspection and testing program for the fire hydrants, and what we do is if we do come across them, we do report them. Mm-hmm. We have basically like a water liaison officer, and his responsibility is coordinating with the Guam Water Works. Yep.
Is it possible that a responding unit might come across and believe a fire hydrant was operational but was not? Is that a possible scenario?
Yes, sir.
What can you do? I mean, that seems very dangerous as well. If the fire department is not accurately informed of where the water is coming from, what can you do to?
Again, the best thing that we can do is if we do come across any hydrants that are not operational, is we do report them. We mark them. Every station basically keeps a map on all the hydrants that are known to them.
Okay.
So they would mark them and color code them, whether they're working or not. If they're not working, and by the way, the hydrants, just like any other appliance, does have a lifespan, and that it has to be changed after X amount of years. So depending on the manufacturer's recommendation date. So they do have to be changed out. Waterworks has been pretty good about addressing it. However, we do have our water issues on Guam, getting water from point A to point B, and making sure that they're up to code.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Just I appreciate your work and congratulations to you. Please, you are so important to the community. Don't hesitate to ask for more money within reason, because it's in all of our interest, right, Senator? It's in all of our interest. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator Fisher. I'd like to also recognize, we're joined by Senator Brown. Senator Dueñas, do you have any questions or comments for the young gentleman in the panel?
Cidus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and I want to concur with Senator Fisher and our chairman as well. I always enjoy your very professional presentations, and no exception today. Chief Manabusan, I won't call you Chief Joey because there's another Chief Joey. Chief Manabusan and your team, thank you for being here this morning. I just have a very few questions. First of all, I want to say I think that a request at this point in time of a status quo budget is very responsible. We'll be going into the budget process kind of maybe with a little bit less certainty with the recent disaster we had and other things. So I want to appreciate that straight away. Also want to appreciate the fact that you're on it, you had your recruits and you had your cycle, but you see what's diminishing. And it looks to me like your budget should be able to withhold your overtime issues while you're under recruitment. So that to me looked stable, but I'm sure you're going to do your best to accelerate your recruitments and do what you need going forward. Main question, a lot of communications issues in this last event. How did the 911 system hold up?
I'll defer that to Chief Agagåhan.
Our 911 system worked. It was our LMRs, our radios, portable radios, that gave us quite a difficult time. The repeaters, as a result of the typhoon, went down, so it took Motorola a certain amount of time to get it back up. We were basically communicating through cell phones. Cell phones donated by GTA, because if I'm not mistaken, they were the only carrier that was up after the typhoon. So that was our means of communication. But right now, as it is, where we're at, we have no problem with any radio communications whatsoever.
That's great news,
Yes.
sir. It really is. And boy, I tell you, it's a good thing we got that. That looks like just in the nick of time, right, in terms of that system being up and robust because this event happened. And I just want to congratulate your team again. I saw the rollout and I saw the demonstrations that were done, and it looks like the system is performing as to what was requested. And you have any additional information, Chief?
I only mentioned GTA. That included DOCOM.
Okay.
I don't get stopped out there.
No,
Okay.
yeah. The second thing is, I'm sure you're responding to equal or maybe a lot more calls. I just see your ambulances quite a bit. How is your ambulance fleet holding up? And I think that's one of my questions as well.
We are basically back to our normal status. We currently have 7 ambulances on our fleet ongoing. We do have our mutual aid with our federal partners to assist us with if we have any shortages. We currently have 10 engine apparatuses, not to include our rescue units. And by the way, all of our firefighters are certified emergency medical technicians to include 2 advanced life support units up at Sinhanya to handle northern and southern advanced life support needs, which, by the way, is also manned by paramedics.
Yeah, I've seen engines responding. So there is ongoing procurement for new ambulances.
At this time, we are working on it, sir, through federal grants. We procured 2 fire trucks, which will be scheduled to arrive later on this year or at the end of this year. But we're working on ambulance. We just procured like 10, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago. But the lifespan of the medics are, gosh, it's like a 3-year, 5-year turnaround on the ambulances.
Yeah, I know the hospital too is definitely really at full capacity, and obviously most of those, if not all, are your transports, unless a family has the ability to bring someone in. But I live close to the hospital, and I want to congratulate your guys. I mean, they must be getting tired because the buses are rolling in quite frequent. So just wanted to, sounds like we're on top of it and working with our federal partners as well for any contingencies. And then I'm glad that in the goals and objectives here, you have your finalization and full implementation of the paramedic program. So that's on track in terms of the timing. Thanks, Chief Manabusan. I really don't have much more. Like I said, I think it's a very responsible request, and I think that, you know, as my good colleague was asking earlier on some of the bigger projects, I know that that capital outlay is, as Chief Onkenko talked, are things that are requested through GITA, through grants, through other funding sources that won't affect your annual appropriations, and then if needed, they get added on as, you know, those operations become operational. So once again, guys, I always appreciate your professionalism. This is a very straightforward budget request, and thanks to the guys and men and women out there who are doing all the hard work of holding down the front line, particularly when it comes to you know, the medical emergencies. This storm and other things have really, I think, put a lot of stress on the health condition of our people, and so you guys, I know, are really really turning and burning, if you will, out there to make sure that you can save lives on a daily basis and you know, keep our people safe as much as possible. So please extend my appreciation to all the men and women, either in uniform or your civilian staff that support your operation as well. And I'm sure our chairman will be abreast to whatever further needs going forward. But like I said, thank you for coming forward with what I believe is a very responsible request. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Brown, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the Guam Fire Department. I did want to ask, not too long ago we met with Department of Administration, and we were questioning the process, obviously, that it's very time-consuming to deal with recruitment for you, the Guam Police Department, Department of Corrections, and I see in your presentation this morning that actually since 2018 you're minus 11 in terms of your numbers of firefighters because of either, you know, separation or people retire, and understandable. And I also see from your chart here that in 2019, 2020, 2021, there was no recruitment of any firefighters, and then in 2022 you had 33, and then in 2023 you have so far 0 recruitment of firefighters. And I remember it wasn't that long ago, everybody wanted to be a firefighter in the Guam Fire Department. What is the explanation as to why there, at least from 2019 to 2021, there was no recruitment at all? Considering your numbers that you have here, you're almost at half capacity in terms of the desired number of firefighters that you need to cover all the demands that are here in our community. So, I don't know, Acting Chief Manabusan, if you can respond to that.
Yes, ma'am. Chief Manabusan, Acting Fire Chief. We do identify that we're about 100 firefighters short. And we did bring it up at the pre-budget hearing, and that discussion is ongoing. Some ideas were posed by some of the senators present at the pre-budget hearing last week. So that's a work in progress. GFD, along with all the other public safety agencies, it's very tough to fill our positions and just to justify a budget. But yes, it's a work in progress.
Do you have any explanation as to why during these years? I mean, if there's such a need, and again, the administration's publicly, I mean, in their campaign and, you know, said these are priority areas, law enforcement, Guam Fire Department, these support areas that directly service the community. But I'm curious, why has there been no recruitment during these years? I mean, out of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you only had a recruitment of 33 in 2022. Why was there no recruitments at all during those other years? That's a 4-year period. Well, 2023, obviously, we're only halfway through the year so far, but.
Well, I'll just be upfront, lack of funding in itself. But recently passed, or I think it was sponsored by Senator James Moylan and went to public law, that requires or allows GFD now to recruit up to 20 every fiscal year. So that in itself can provide consistency, whereby, you know, people who are leaving can be replaced by those people coming in. But it's because of lack of funding.
Let me clarify here, because
Yes.
I'll call you still Chief Onkenko, because I
Yes,
know
ma'am.
you as that, if you don't mind.
Yes.
It's just because we've all been around a while. I mean, that who drives the agenda here and who puts forth the budget is the administration. I mean, we certainly will review and determine as to whether or not we concur their areas will increase, probably areas will decrease that we don't see as a priority. But this makes no sense to me that we're saying that because there's no funding. We've been awash in money for the last 3 years, so I'm kind of curious, is it the processing of people that are interested going through the recruitment or hiring process, or was there simply no initiative to hire additional firefighters?
Well, when funding was provided, it took us about 18 months to actually get everyone on board. The hiring process, the recruitment process, the announcements, the testing that they go through a written test and a physical test, agility test, then they must undergo training for 6 months at the Guam Academy in order to be certified as firefighter once. So when we do hire, it normally takes about a year before we can actually put them out there in the field, fully trained. But like I said, the hiring process is very time-consuming in itself. We wanted to hire 20 additional personnel, as I had mentioned, for this fiscal year, but we couldn't extend the list of eligibles because it has exceeded 1 year. So again, we have to go back to the same process of announcing it, which normally takes 6 months to complete, announcing and all the testing process.
Do you know, because again, we asked this question of Department of Administration, because like in the case of the Guam Police Department, they had applicants of over 1,000, and they barely ended up with the low-end double digits in the 20s with regards to how many officers they actually ended up hiring out of that huge list. And I'm curious, that's why I asked the Department of Administration not too long ago if they could actually give us some information on as to why so few qualified. Is there certain things that we need to look for, or things maybe we need to provide training programs or opportunities? Because if someone's expressed an interest in wanting to serve, and again, you have tougher positions, right? You, Department of Corrections, I mean, Guam Police Department, those are not the most glamorous positions because they're very taxing and very challenging positions to serve in. And we wanted to know what was the reason. Is there some other opportunity we could provide out there in recruitment to help facilitate, because if someone already has an interest, that's the first step. Is it their educational background? What is it that perhaps while they're going through the process, they're getting ruled out, that they're not qualified to move forward to be in these capacities? And that's a concern because 1,000 to such a low number to actually get hired is going to make this difficult and more difficult moving forward. So I'm curious, do you have any feedback on as to why the numbers are so small by the time we're done in your particular case for the Guam Fire Department?
Senator Brown, Chief Agustin, Guam Fire Department. In the case with the Guam Fire Department, unlike the other public safety agencies, we never have shortages of qualified applicants. We get upwards of 2,000 applicants for the Guam Fire Department for 30-some openings, and we never have any shortages. We actually have more than enough to choose from. And you are correct with the other public safety agencies. In many cases, it is educational requirements. We have firefighters that come on board with associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, no kidding, and they're physically fit, and all genders, by the way. So with the fire department, we have no shortage of qualified applicants.
So in your case, it's what? It's funding and it's...
Yes, ma'am, it's funding. Funding.
And so if the legislature provide additional funding, you would have no issue. And what did you ask of the administration to increase your budget? Sacrifice something else and prioritize the Guam Fire Department? Did you guys ask the administration to do that? If this is the issue, again, this is not a legislative-driven issue. The issue of prioritizing the operations in the government of Guam, and we know, I've been on both sides of the aisle, come from the administration. They prioritize what their priorities are. Did you guys advocate with the administration to provide more funding so that you could hire more firefighters? Because look, you're minus 11 since 2018. Instead of moving up, you've actually moved down in terms of having the capacity, and certainly as more of your personnel go on to retire, then you lose your experienced workforce, and you don't have the opportunity to do the orientation and training. Because back in the day, we always knew who was next in line. We knew that when so-and-so retired, the 2 or 3 behind that have been groomed over the years were going to be the ones to move up and assume those positions. We don't sort of have that kind of, for whatever reason. We don't seem to have that in place nowadays, so we lose that opportunity. So where are you with regards to that? I mean, is that something, did you advocate for a higher budget with the administration? I mean, I appreciate the conservative budget. I'm all for conservative expenditures, but
I think if I'm not mistaken, the chief mentioned in his testimony that right now our acting fire chief, which was Joyce Nicholas, deputy chief, he has been knocking on doors. He's been in constant communication with the governor and lieutenant governor, most especially the BBMR director, in regards to getting our 20 personnel, up to 30 personnel on board, trying to get that funding in for this fiscal year in itself. Okay. But he is constantly, I have to say, I think he's been, the doors are locked on him for entering BBMR because of his constant showing up there asking for help in itself. But we are doing our best, to try to conserve as much, but not to the extent that we are, going to jeopardize our personnel or the lives of personnel.
do you have any idea when you'll be getting a nomination yet for a permanent fire chief?
No, ma'am.
No,
I
you
have
don't
no
know
idea.
yet. I see you're looking at replacing, well, before I get there, I see you're going to establish EMT and fire inspector positions. Can you clarify what's the purpose of that versus your existing positions that you have of firefighters that perform these duties? What's going to make this a little different in distinguishing EMT and fire inspectors? Is this adding additional positions on, or are these anything you're modifying with regards to these positions? What is this proposal about?
Yes, ma'am.
For your
We are working
ongoing and
with-
future projects?
We're working with Department Administration on establishing EMT positions as well as fire inspector positions, basically independent of your typical firefighter that's been staffing those positions, so that they can come on board without having to go through the fire academy and being hired straight as EMTs. There's a lot of folks out there that are qualified EMTs
Yes.
and not necessarily a firefighter that can actually perform those tasks. And at the same time, one of the ideas and plans is to hire fire inspectors that don't have to go through the fire academy, similar to what the building inspectors are doing, but they will specialize more in the fire specialization.
And this will free your trained firefighters to perform firefighting
ma'am.
duties?
Yes. And that'll actually save some money as well.
Okay. I see you're looking at building, I know the chairman touched on this here, and you're looking at building additional or rebuilding additional fire stations in Tamuning and Sinhanya. Are you relocating physically the locations of these current fire stations that you have? And if so, where are they
Yes,
being
ma'am.
located?
For the Sinhanya Fire Station, if you're familiar where the Guam Police Department station is in Sinhanya, is adjacent to that, right beside it. For Tamuning, there are a couple of ideas that were posed, and nothing final yet. But one of the prospects was behind the ITC building. There's some government property back there, and there's a few other lots that are out there. And we're working with GITA and other partners to...
Is the current location in Tamuning, is it just is it too small, or you don't have enough area? Or what's the situation? I mean, it's been there forever.
It's too small.
It's just a too
Yes.
small location, so you need a larger piece of property.
Yes.
And then Sinhanya, of course, that is
Right.
very small.
And very tight, yes.
Yeah, very tight
Yes.
area that you have there. Well, I won't belabor it. I mean, I just wanted to get those key questions, especially with regards to recruitment answered. And again, I think we know that initiative has to come from the administration. It's disappointing to see that the numbers have actually decreased. I mean, even if you were at a level field, that would have been, not acceptable, but at least you have that capacity, but to see it decrease is going to make it a little more challenging moving forward. Do you have any hopes that you're going to, at least this upcoming remaining 6 months, have any additional hiring at all, or just simply replacing existing positions for the Guam Fire Department?
We're ready to get the program going as soon as we get the green light. And
For the positions that you anticipate to retire this year, are you looking at getting a new group to come into place to fill those existing positions that are going to be vacated?
During our last promotion cycle, we promoted company-level officers and chief-level officers. So we're basically ready for senior retirements. However, filling the junior positions is a big concern.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to see. I guess that's something we have to keep an eye on then. But thank you. Appreciate your time this morning for coming to join us. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Just go back a little bit. The Talafofo boat ramp, several years back, I was pursuing that with Mr. C from Iran to get that boat ramp, and then that's when we got the fire department involved so they can have a station there as part of the emergency. And I think at that time, it was not even supposed to reach $5 million because the whole layout was already done. It's just a matter of confirming and getting Army Corps of Engineers to greenlight it. Because nobody can just go out there and just dig unless Army Corps of Engineers says you can dig and it has to be against the wall. There's a bunch of other stuff. But you mentioned that you're working with like GIDA and folks like that. If I'd only ask that if you come up with a cost, even though you're still working with them, let us know, or at least let me know. I have the drawing already of what it looked like. Once you let me know, I'm going to reach out to Senator Fisher, Senator Brown, Senator Chris. I'm going to say, hey, it's a chance to do this. Let's get this fixed once, because right now, in the South, there's really no means to recover and rescue folks out in the water. Unless you go from... Huh? Boat ramp in Iran?
There's a boat ramp at Iran.
Is there a boat ramp in Iran? I'm official boat ramp?
There is a ramp by Bear Rock area, right there at the coast.
Yeah,
Yes,
but that collapsed.
there is a ramp.
Right. No, I don't think
But
it's usable right now.
It's not workable for our task.
Right.
But yes, there's a ramp.
Right. But see, and that's what I was going to try to lead to, is that as you're identifying like Talafofo Bay, I think it's reasonable to actually take a look at what you got in Iran. And you can do a combination of both, because I just feel there's no issue recovering up north, but there's an issue down south, and that should never be an issue. Unless you're in Melesur, then you can go out. But it'll sure take a couple of hours to get around. Versus they should be able to kick off right there from the bay. If not, being in Iran, kick off right there. Because other than those two spots, there's no other areas to kick off unless you go to Pago Bay. We keep getting farther and farther away from when the people of Guam would expect the Guam Fire Department to recover, rescue. Because I don't know, you guys have the boat, right? A separate Guam Police Department has a boat. And I think that when we're going to do the ramp and we're going to do a law enforcement where they can move out, maybe that should be joint, both fire and police, so that whichever boat is available, it'll be there and ready to roll. And maybe you guys be there responding or not. It'll be great. And I like the issue you brought about the EMT and the inspectors. That's great. Have you guys, do you guys have a fire reserve force or no?
There is a fire reserve program in the law. Outfitting the firefighter costs, that's the big cost again.
Yeah. Well, what I was trying to lead to is, like, you know, in the police department, they're supposed to have a police cadet. And maybe leading up to your recruitment, because you don't have a problem recruiting. I know that. But maybe transition, maybe 6 months. You know, you did one academy, you're 6 months, you're transitioning them, they're in the cadet program, they're doing quite a few hands-on, so when they hit the academy, they're not too wet behind the ears, per se. They really know when they say turn left, you know you're turning left, grab your equipment and move out. Recruit, don't even think about it, you know what you're supposed to do. And that's what I want to lead to. But other than that, if there's any issues, Chief, all the chief have, at least I think I answered the 911 issue. Unless there's is there anything else you folks want to bring up? You're good? Okay. Let's see, Mike's happy. He's one of the few budget hearings he's attended where he's comfortable. Again, I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and for providing feedback and suggestions, and my colleagues for participating. The Guam Fire Department budget hearing is now adjourned. The time now is Wow, almost record time. 10:03. Please have a safe day, and please take care out there. Take care. Thank you.